Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. I hope you're all staying well, staying safe, and of course fighting that war against the grey. So, a little bit late to the party, sorry, just had a busy couple of days as always with the kiddies. But we got another article on the Sons of Behemat, which is quite cool. It actually goes into a bit of information before the current Realmgate Wars information that we've done. You'll see I've done a video on the Realmgate Wars, like who is Behemat before, but this sort of sheds a little bit more light and gives us a little bit more info. So it turns out that Behemat actually isn't the initial sort of primogenitor of gargants. That actually ends up being someone called Yimnog, an enormous creature known as the grandfather of the gargants. So obviously he's the grandfather, Behemat is the father, and then obviously the children, the sons of Behemat. And so it's not really known what happened to Yimnog. It is. He was slain in one of Sigmar's greatest battles in the Age of Myth, but the death of one monster made way for another. So his son Behemat took over, known as the World Titan, and for some reason or another, not really known what happened. He was sort of smacked into a stupor and fell asleep, and he spewed forth in his splutter before he fell asleep the Gargant race. The article sort of goes a little bit into this. It also tells us a bit about the Realmgate Wars, and obviously we know how, I've gone over in my other video, how Behemat was actually corrupted. Archaon's plan sort of came to fruition, and he was corrupted in his nerve points. He awoke this corrupted thing, and the Stormcast led by the Celestant Prime and a bunch of Lord Relictors had to use the Brotherhood of 1,000 Bolts to take him down and unfortunately slay the beast. So it then goes into a little bit about these days, which is an information we really don't have in the current mortal realms of anything at all. So any little scraps of information are really cool to sort of try and pick apart. And so what it says is, these days gargants are most often seen fighting alongside the forces of destruction or chaos, the former fielding drunken, stumbling ale-guzzler gargants, and the latter using mutated, shambling chaos gargants. However, there have been times when gargants have gathered in vast tribes, such as those fighting for King Brod, the self-proclaimed true son of Behemat. And if you remember, King Brod was that really cool conversion with the giant rock pillar and the skulls on his head. He was the leader unit. You got to make one giant leader in the old Sons of Behemat formation back in the Realmgate Wars books, and that was King Brod. So he's the one who have a whole bit of story. Indeed, stories tell of even larger gargants, vast creatures closer in size and ferocity to their lost father than their already huge kin. So it does sort of lead us to believe that, like, okay, the ale-guzzlers aren't going away. They're sort of your general gargants, but we're actually going to get something quite big, which is really cool. Like, we want big gargants. We want them to be the Imperial Knights. I know all the hoo-ha and 40k with what Imperial Knights sort of bring to the game and stuff like that, but I think Age of Sigmar with monsters and the wounding charts and all that is in a much better position to have an army of these massive models. And so it really does excite me that we're going to get bigger gargants. Like, it's been confirmed as pretty much well as it's going to without seeing actual models come out of Games Workshop that we're getting bigger giants. So to talk a little bit more about like what the faction may, or like where it's going to have some slack is, the obvious one is like, this is going to be an army of like max 10 models. Max, absolute maximum, and that's probably if you go Gargant, like Ale-guzzler Gargant or Chaos Gargant spam. And it does seem like you're maybe going to get both in the army, which is cool. I spoke in my last video, like on the 10 things we expect to see, on how I think Chaos Gargants will be in the book, because I think it's a really cool lore aspect to go down and look at those Gargants that have been corrupted since Behemat was corrupted in the Realmgate Wars. But yeah, so these really cool dudes with 10 models, like obviously the weakness is going to be in like lack of models, but I think you can, if there's any one army that should get large and in charge, or whatever it's called, might makes right, I can't remember what the rule is actually called for the Gargants, where they get an extra, not the Gargants, sorry, for the Ogre More tribes where they count as 2 and monsters count as 10. I think like that should be ported over to the Gargants. I'm not for it going for every army. It defeats the purpose if every army gets it, but I think with the gargants they really are going to need something like that, or the ability to take over, take objectives and like walk around with the objectives. Perhaps something they are going to need mechanics to be able to play the objective game, which is what Age of Sigmar is. But don't really think there's some really cool artwork here. Like, I'm loving the artwork we're seeing. The Kraken Eater's really cool, and all of the other ones. But yeah, that's all there really was. Wasn't an awful lot, but like little bits of snippets here and there. Sort of reading under the words that we're going to get these new Gargant kits. But anyway, I'd like to hear your thoughts, what you think of the new Ael'Gaza Gargants. Oh, sorry, Sons of Behemat army. Are you excited for them? And any little bits you might think might happen, or things you'd like to see, especially narrative-wise. Like, there's really not a lot to go on so far what we've got, and narrative-wise I really can't wait to see what this is all about, and how they function. But anyway, leave a comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the video. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. We'll get there eventually. And thank you to all the patrons that support the channel. We're growing so tremendously over the past few days, and it's great just seeing all this stuff